coaches don't give solutions. We're not
They
supposed to
don't.
give
They're
solutions,
not
right? You're
supposed
supposed to guide on a path.
Till you don't accept it, you can't really change
Yeah.
it.
Take what comes.
Right.
Every job, every learning
Take it as a challenge.
is an experience.
Yeah. What happens is we make work our life. We don't realize that, work is just part of our life. It's just one part of it. And you have to make time for the other part.
So if you don't want to deal with something, the best thing to do is be busy.
Hello friends, welcome to Unplug with Priyanka. Today I have with me a dear friend and colleague, Amar Sinhji. He is the CHRO of Khaitan Co. I've known Amar for nearly 2 decades now. We've worked together in the Tata Group and I've had several interesting conversations and insights from him. I'm sure you'll enjoy the conversation today. Hi Amar, welcome to the show.
Hi Priyanka. I'm nervous to begin with, I can tell you that, but it's lovely to be here and lovely to see you after such a long time.
I know, it's great catching up. But yes, Amar, I just want to start with, the theme of my podcast is happiness at the workplace. And so I want to start with asking you a pivotal moment that you would have had in your career, which sort of took you or changed your perspective towards happiness at work. What's your story there?
Uh, well, years ago I used to be with the Essar group in the late 90s. And for those of your listeners who go back as far as I do, SR underwent a very tough time those days, and all the businesses were not doing well. And we were pretty young, and SR was growing very fast. And it was a very scary time. But we realized that if we all just worked and kind of leaned on each other and did things, there was nothing. It was a very happy thing at work, and it was very strange because the businesses were not making profits. People were getting laid off, projects were stuck, but all of us came to work happy, and we went home happy, and we realized that it was all of us that were together, and the entire atmosphere in the office. So we never let the stresses get down to us.
Right.
Things were so bad that we would have delayed salaries, and all of us were young, married, most of us had very young children. But we looked forward to going to work. And even every time I tell this story, it sounds very strange because to say that you were in a group that was really not doing well, all the businesses were stalled.
But you were
but there
happy.
was so much
Happiness.
joy. And I think one more thing, Priyanka, I just wanted to say is we were never scared.
Right.
I never worried that I would lose my job or what's going to happen. We woke up every morning, we went, and I think we were all aligned that whatever happens, we've got to turn this thing around. So maybe if there is a common purpose, and maybe if we are all aligned, and maybe if you enjoy what you do, I think that's what gets happiness into you, into your very soul.
Right.
The rest is all very frivolous.
Right. So it's also maybe the support system that you all were there for each other, going towards a common purpose, and maybe that's all.
The promoters believed in us, we believed in the promoters. So irrespective of whatever said, we knew that this was going to turn around someday.
Right. Excellent. So Amar, early days, we all remember and reminisce, right? We all remember what we did, the joy that we had, the friends we made, the colleagues we've had, right? And we've also had mentors. We've all learned from mentors and our leaders who we've worked with, right? So, mine is Mr. Krishna Kumar.
Yes,
you know him very well.
Yes.
And I've had huge learnings from him. I just wanted to know who is that one person who has influenced your career journey and your perspective on workplaces and people.
So I haven't had a single person, but I think at different stages in my career, there have been people whom I've been greatly influenced by. So I started my career with Bharat Petroleum, which was the public sector, and we were called officer trainees then. We joined from campus.
Yeah, those days.
Yes, and Bharat Petroleum is special because I also met Vilu, my wife, there. And
oh, lovely.
We had an office marriage. And
I did not know that.
Office romance, and we decided to get married when one of us quit. So I quit, and then we got married. But we had very senior people in BPCL, and at that time our chairman, Mr. Sukhdev Singhji, who subsequently moved to the Essar group, was somebody that I've modeled most of my career on. And I will not get into like whether he was a great manager or a great, because I was too junior. He was chairman and I was officer. So we had
Right.
maybe 11 grades in between us and 30 years of
Wow.
work. But he was someone who carried himself well,
Okay.
inspired a lot of confidence, spoke softly, has
Mm.
never raised his voice.
Okay.
I would, go up to get signatures on files and very mundane stuff like that.
Yeah.
But he never spoke to me as if I was an officer. He
Mm.
spoke to me as if I was an equal.
Right.
And this was a trait amongst a lot of the very senior public sector officials.
Hmm.
He subsequently moved to SR,
SR.
and one of the first people that he took along as a junior was me.
Oh, lovely.
So he shaped a lot of my career. In fact, if I may take a minute, there's a very interesting sub
Please.
story.
Please.
So his father was General Maharaj Rajendra Sinhji.
Okay.
So if you go to most of the cantonments, you will see the RSI institutes.
Right.
There is an RSI road and an RSI institute in almost every major army cantonment. That stands for Rajendra Singhji Institute.
Oh, okay.
And my uncle, my dad's brother, who joined the Air Force, he's long gone now and retired as an Air Marshal, was sent to live with General Rajendra Singh Ji before he joined the Air Force to learn how to be an officer and a gentleman.
Oh,
So I think it flows down. So yes, he
wow.
was one of my earliest
Early years mentors.
kind of somebody. I wouldn't call him a mentor, but somebody that I looked up to and said that I would want to model my life on him.
Wow. Yeah. And
Uh,
I can see where the soft spoken comes from. I've always seen you like that. You've always been soft, but yes, firm on what you need to do.
yeah.
So, with a lot of clarity. So, that's great. But later years, anybody
Later
you want
years, I
to?
think I met a lot of great people in the Tatas.
Hmm.
I have, on many an occasion, interacted with Mr. Tata himself, never worked with him
Hmm.
directly.
Hmm.
But a lot of the senior Tata Sons directors
Yeah.
shaped us, especially when I was with financial services. So I was with Tata Finance for many
Hmm.
years, which underwent its own turbulence, and then with Tata Capital.
Hmm.
That's where I really worked with some of these
Leaders.
very
Yeah.
senior leaders. I've interacted with Mr.
Krishna
Krishna
Kumar.
Kumar himself on many an occasion. And while you don't work with them, I think they influence your lives very much.
Hmm.
There was another senior Tata person, and when Mr. Tata passed away recently,
Hmm.
I saw he had put Mr. Tata's photo as the profile picture
Hmm.
on his WhatsApp, and I said, like, you've never been in any company where you've interacted with Mr. Tata, and he told me, but Amar, I feel a personal sense of loss
Loss.
at his going. So I think a lot of leaders have influenced me that way,
Hmm.
where you've interacted with them, worked very closely with them, and I've of course had immediate bosses who have shaped how I work, but there are maybe 3, 4 of them over the course of my career.
Right. And what do you think is one common leadership trait, across all of these leaders, which you feel really helps people, from people perspective, it really helps organization?
The leaders whom I have looked up to and have shaped my life, if I were to pick one trait, I think all of them had empathy.
Mm.
I mean, apart from the other leadership traits like having vision and ability to take
That,
decisions, and that's a given. I don't think you can be a leader if you
that's
don't
a
have.
corporate leader trait
Yes, but
required.
I think all of them had empathy.
Mm.
Simple things like if you went to meet somebody,
Mm.
there would be a minute or two of some conversation. How are you doing? How's your wife? How's your son? What's
Family,
happening? What's
yes.
at work? Etc. Nobody jumped. It was not a transactional meeting.
Mm.
And that I have seen across all the leaders that I worked with.
Yes.
And I think that's a very important trait and much in short supply now.
Yes, and much required empathy. I
Yes,
mean, even these days, it's become so difficult. You have the Gen Zs and you have all these multi-generational workforce. You need to have a different type of empathy, I
yes,
think, for each one of them.
absolutely,
Their needs and requirements are quite different,
absolutely.
and that trait to be built as a leader, I think, is very much required currently.
Yes, and I think especially, and I think maybe you'll touch upon the topic of remote working and things
Yes.
like that. But as we move away from physical contact,
Hmm.
I think characteristic, I mean, things like empathy and all become very, very
Very
important.
much more, yeah, because they're going to be sitting somewhere else, and
Yes,
you need to know
yes,
how to deal with that environment and
yes,
scenario. Yeah,
yes,
good. Another part that I want to, talk about is you're with a legal firm right now, right? Khaitan and
yes,
Company. You've been with us in Tata as well as in hospitality,
absolutely.
where there are lots of women, right? The percentage of diversity from gender perspective is high,
Yes,
generally in
yes.
hospitality. How is it in the legal world?
So same, I think we are north of maybe 35, 38% in terms
That's
of
good.
diversity.
Hmm.
So lots of this thing. Legal is of course a professional services and I mean it's a safer environment. So there's no
Yes,
manufacturing plant,
that
factory, etc.
that's right.
So
Yeah.
it does attract a lot of ladies,
Hmm.
and we do a large amount of campus hiring. We are a tier
Okay.
one firm, so
Hmm.
we would on an average hire between 70 to 100 kids from the national law colleges every year as a campus batch.
Okay. And how
And
many? What is the percentage of
yes, so I
women?
was coming to that, and all things being equal on merit,
Of course.
for more than the last 3 to 4 years, I think more than 50% of the batch is
Fantastic.
girls.
Yeah. But do you lose them along the way, or are they able to reach the partner level
We
in
do
the
lose them
organization?
along the way,
Yeah.
and I think that's typically a very Indian thing. So,
Mm.
as a firm, I would say we would be at international or even beyond international standards in things that we do to support women at work.
Right.
But I think somewhere along the way, given how our society functions, I think a lot of the burden falls on women as they
Women.
go along. So by the time they reach partnership levels, the
Hmm.
ratio drops
Drops.
drastically.
Hmm.
Though we have now, over the last maybe 5 to 8 years, seen a trend where women come back, they practice on their own. There are lots of
Hmm.
options available.
Like a flexibility option.
So once they're very senior, they would probably set up on their own
Okay.
or join smaller firms, which gives
Okay.
them a lot of this thing. The other things to keep women at work in terms of flexibility and etc. All those systems are already here.
Yeah.
But a tier one law firm is also very demanding.
Right.
You
High
work long
pressure.
hours. There's high pressure. So what happens is when they reach the family stage, when children come along,
Hmm.
etc.
Hmm.
Then unless you have extremely good infrastructure at home or an extremely uh, understanding family
Supportive
setup,
family. Yes.
it can be
Difficult.
challenging. We
Hmm.
do a lot of most of our work is with overseas clients, so there
Hmm.
are time zone differences, etc.
Right.
Those are part of the job.
Right. But
Uh,
any initiatives you've put in place to create that supportive environment in office?
yes,
Um,
we would do. I think more than anybody else does. So we have flexi timing.
hmm.
We've moved to hybrid working. In let's say in Delhi, for example, we are based in Noida and we have some offices in town.
Hmm.
But we understand that like if you are traveling from Gurgaon to Noida, it's a
Wasting
nightmare.
2 hours.
So
Yeah.
we've actually opened offices in Gurgaon, and we have
Okay.
said, all right, if you stay in Gurgaon, go to the Gurgaon office and sit there. You need to come to the main office. This thing.
Right.
We have very very comfortable and flexible rules around maternity, post maternity. We give time off. Let's say if you worked on a deal and you've not had a day off and you've been on it a couple of, you get 2 3 days off complimentary at the end of this
Hmm.
thing.
Hmm.
So there is a whole host of infrastructure,
Excellent.
but it is very demanding, and especially when ladies reach kind of a family
Family
stage.
stage. Yes.
In spite of all the things, because all the support that you have is at work,
Hmm.
that support needs to be replicated at
At
home, and
home.
every home is different. So
Yeah.
those are challenges.
Yeah. So these days, yes, the extended family is not usually staying, right? We were fortunate. My times, I had my mother-in-law,
That's right.
father-in-law,
Yeah, mostly
everyone.
they're nuclear
The
families.
ex.
So
So now it's become even more difficult, and therefore we need to sort of put in more systems to help
yeah.
them get back
So I was
into the
I was in
workplace.
Bangalore yesterday, and I just met one of our younger lawyers, and she's just delivered a baby, and it's only been 2 months, and she's back in work. So I said, "What are you doing here?"
Oh, in
So
two
she
months.
says that no, I want to get back to work, but can I do this, this, this? So
Hmm.
we have said you do whatever you want, come when you want, go when you want.
Yeah.
She set up systems at home.
Yeah.
So we have done whatever we can from our end, but it works both ways. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So since you're touching upon the hybrid workspace, you're giving them flexibility, etc. What else do you do in terms of hybrid, and how do you really manage the leader or manager and employee relationship? How do you teach them empathy? What are the kind of challenges you're facing due to hybrid? Uh,
So we do have a lot of challenges. One part of the challenges is grooming them into professionals.
mm,
So for the 2 or 3 odd years when we were working from home largely, we found a major difference in the batches that had joined us.
Okay.
So, three batches from campus joined us. And at the end of the 3 years, we found that they were far below all competence levels than the batches who had joined us physically,
Okay.
because they were at home. So even if you take stuff like getting dressed for work or being presentable, the
Hmm.
ability to have a conversation, the ability to talk to a senior partner, to conduct themselves was vastly lacking.
Hmm.
So as a professional services firm, we are not very encouraging of complete work from home.
Right.
We are encouraging of flexi working,
Right.
take time off. Now we are struggling to bring those three batches up to speed.
Okay.
And just to give you an example, if you are a partner and you work with what we call associates, lawyers are
Hmm.
called associates, and you
Hmm.
have, let's say, 10 of them, of which say half are pre-pandemic and the other. So while the younger ones have come and they are supposed to do it, you will still reach out to the ones you have interacted with physically,
Right.
because you don't have that comfort level, and they are also not fully prepared.
Hmm.
So if they have to go physically meet a client,
They're
uh,
not
they are
confident.
not there
Hmm.
in every sense of the manner.
Right.
So we've moved to hybrid,
Hmm.
but we encourage coming into work physically, being there, etc. You
Hmm.
can take time depending on your circumstances. You want to come in early, come in late, leave
Yes.
early, all that kind
Yes.
of thing
Yeah.
is there.
Yeah.
Take time off. But a physical presence for us in office is a huge part of the learning and grooming of a young lawyer.
Hmm.
So
Hmm. Excellent. So, Amar, I want to sort of shift the discussion to mental health and well-being, right? In today's world, being busy, we like to show that we're busy all the time. We actually take it as a badge of honor, right? That I'm busy all day. I have to jump from one meeting to another, right? But you've put a LinkedIn article which says, how important is being busy.
or how being too busy is not that good.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So what are some of the strategies you've used to
So I
ensure
think
your mental well-being is there?
yeah, I think I remember what you're talking about. It was an article I put on LinkedIn about busyness and
Yes,
how it kind of envelops your life. I mean, my view is that a lot of busyness is filling up empty spaces,
right.
right? So I remember I met somebody some time back, and they were telling me that one of the greatest things you can do is to do one task by itself. So if you're having a cup of tea, just have a cup of tea. Like,
Right.
you don't need to read the paper, listen to music, answer your email, look out of the window, everything. And if you just have a cup of tea for 10 minutes, it can make a world of a difference.
That's true.
Or my mom-in-law, Vilu's mom's 96 now.
Wow.
And
Hmm.
if she listens to music, she listens to music.
Right.
She's not doing five other things around it.
So no
Uh,
multitasking
I
basically.
can't last remember when I just purely listen to music. I
Nice.
mean, mostly it's in the background now.
Yeah.
So I think we get caught in that trap. Everyone likes to see their calendars chock a block and tell
Hmm.
people that I have no space on my calendar for you for the
I
next two
have to
three
jump into
months,
the next one, right?
next
Yeah.
meeting. I think it takes you away from the moment. It takes you away from being in the depth of anything,
Hmm.
and at some level, maybe it's also running away from something. So if you don't want to deal with something, the best thing to do is be busy.
Right.
And somewhere a lot of issues that we have at work around mental health, well-being, all that comes uh, from a myriad of such issues.
Hmm.
And as an organization, we do a lot of things around mental health. I think we take the lead on many initiatives.
Okay.
We have agencies you can call up. We give time off. We are
Hmm.
very understanding. We have actually an entire vertical that deals with health and well-being
Okay.
within the law firm,
Okay.
because also given the nature of law firms, where the pressures are exceed demand very high,
Right.
the times, the work timings, etc. But I think half the responsibility lies with an individual also. I
I
mean,
would
at some
agree.
stage, you have to learn to pace yourself. You
Hmm.
have to learn to divide your life up. I mean, during the day, you need to work, you need to sleep, you need to eat, maybe have a bit of spirituality, maybe have a bit of family. It can't be perfectly cut up
Hmm.
in time slots through the day,
Hmm.
and there may be days when you miss something. But over a period of time, if you ignore any one of these aspects, I think you're headed for trouble.
Right.
So like they say, you can't be happy at work if you're not happy at home, and you can't be
Mm.
happy at home if you're not happy at work. So,
Right.
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 So if I'm doing well and I'm doing whatever I'm doing, at some stage, if I'm not healthy, I cannot be as effective as work as I'm going to be.
Yeah.
And organizations can be unforgiving in that sense, right?
Absolutely.
And it's not the organization's responsibility to worry about my health, but it's my responsibility. The
Yeah.
organization can support me, but I need to take that time out to maybe
To do
walk an
what you're
hour
supposed
every
to
day,
do.
which I do
Yeah.
as for much as possible.
Yeah. So I think what happens is we make work our life. We don't realize that, work is just part of our life. It's just one part of it. And you have to make time for the other parts. And I fully agree that, your own health has to
Yeah,
come first.
yeah,
And if you can't make time for it, then why should anybody else worry about it?
yeah. Work also can't become your identity.
It cannot, yeah.
So if you recall the old wedding invitations,
Yeah.
they used to say that son of so and so who's a DGM in a bank and everything, right? So even a wedding invitation had the
So many
person's
titles, yeah.
rank and which bank or otherwise they worked for.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't subsume your identity to your work identity. I
Yeah.
think everything has to be balanced.
Yeah, but titles are so important in organizations. Everybody, if you don't give them the title, it actually makes them unhappy.
Yeah, absolutely,
So it's
absolutely.
little crazy. But, in fact, I just saw one Insta, somebody sent it to me today on Insta that China has actually announced unhappiness leave. So they're actually giving 10 days off. If you're not in a good mood, you can take 10 days off, and, it's unhappiness leave that you can take. What do you think about that? Do you think India should do that?
No, I don't think we should do that for
Yeah.
sure. But we do give time off.
Hmm.
So I mean, if you are dealing with something which is
Hmm.
not physical in nature, like you're not unwell or broken something and all,
Hmm.
we are very open. If you were to come and tell us that I'm dealing with something, I need some time
Some
off.
time off.
We of course have larger things like giving a formal sabbatical for 3 months, which
Okay.
the trend is more and more people avail of, and they just
Hmm.
switch off, do something else, take
Hmm.
time to do something,
And come back.
and come back. But I think over the last few years, the acceptability that there is something called mental health and it's okay,
Hmm.
and it does not mean that you're nuts, and you don't have to feel shy
Yeah.
about it,
You don't have to be
has come a
embarrassed.
long, long way. Uh, I mean, I don't think I would have ever had the courage to tell somebody that I've got something going on in my mind. I don't think I can
Hmm.
still do it.
Hmm.
And you're always taught to deal with it. But I think the younger generation is very, very different.
Yeah. In fact, they choose that. I had a Gen Z who visited us yesterday, last night, came home, and she was very clear that, we are going to prioritize our mental health, and we're not going to stretch too many long hours. So, very interestingly, she also said that if we stretch, of course, we want to give you the outcome, and if we stretch, sure, but then give us that flexibility. So, she was giving an example of somebody who worked till 12, and if the person is telling you that let me come
Yeah.
at 11:30 in the next day in the morning and don't expect me to be there at 9, I think it's fine. I think
Yes,
that's something
absolutely.
we should allow for, right?
Absolutely.
Instead of
I,
saying Gen Zs are lazy and all of that.
yeah, I think it's a matter of where you draw the line. So I met somebody very young the other day, and she said, "Sir, somebody said she wants to bring her dog to work." And so I said, like, why do you want to bring a dog to work? So she says, when I leave for work, my dog's having separation anxiety.
Yeah.
So I think
Oh my God.
you need
Yeah.
to know where to, draw the
Draw the
line
line.
and what to
Yes.
do. But
Sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
but I think the mere fact that organizations are accepting that these things are there and
Yeah.
giving time and space, and it's not looked down upon.
Yeah. That's
And I think the
important.
younger generations have the confidence to speak about these things,
Yeah.
and that's a good
Absolutely.
thing.
So, do you have like a multi-generational workforce
Oh
or?
yes, absolutely. We have senior partners
Yeah.
in their 70s,
Wow.
guys like me following very closely behind, and like I said, we have about a
People that
hundred
you
odd
take
kids who
from
join us from
campus.
campus who are in their
Yeah.
early 20s. So that's the large chunk. I think our average age would hover around the early 30s.
Right.
It's very energizing. It's also very challenging to be able
Yeah.
to build everything. We are an old, venerable law firm. We turned 113 this year.
Wow.
So we have our own culture and systems, but we
Yes.
accommodate everything. So it's a nice, happy mix.
So, what do they expect really, the youngsters?
It's a very complex question. But I think if I were to answer that simply, I think they expect you to trust them.
Okay.
I think they expect you to have confidence in what they're doing. they don't like to fit into too many boundaries,
Right.
right? So they're saying, give us our space.
Right. They don't want to be micromanaged.
They don't micromanage, they don't be boxed in.
Mm.
Now, give us our space can be complicated, right? I mean, end of the day, for anybody, whether you're a law firm or a financial institution or a manufacturing, you have to follow certain things and do certain things in a certain way.
Yeah.
So we tell them that what is, flexible and what is not.
Right.
But I think they work very, very differently. I would have never gone up to somebody even two levels above me and said anything.
Mm.
I have somebody who's come fresh out of campus, comes, knocks at my door, no appointment, no nothing, and says, "Hi, I'm so and so, and you interviewed me in Calcutta, and I've joined,
Right.
and I just came to say hi." So I'll say, "Okay, hi."
Okay. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I don't think I had that confidence 30 years ago
No,
to
none of us did actually. Yeah.
so they're very different that way,
Yeah.
uh, and. What's important to them, what's not important to them. I think what motivates them, what doesn't motivate. Those are very different, and one needs to start learning that very quickly if
Right.
you have a multi generational this thing.
Workforce. Yeah. So, Amar, like you've said, and we all know Khaitan and Company is a tier one law firm, right? And you are taking kids from campuses to join you. And obviously, I'm sure somewhere they do know what they're signing up for, but it is a high pressure environment, I assume, right?
Oh
And
yes,
how do you deal with that situation where the kids realize that and know what they're signing up for?
maybe I'll add. It's a very high pressure environment.
Okay.
That's what a tier one law firm is about, and I think everybody who joins us signs up for it. But it probably also begins way before they join up. So if you are in a national or one of the top tier law colleges for 5 years,
Hmm.
that itself is a very high pressure environment. So you are
Right.
kind of already mentally
Trained for
prepared.
it. Yeah.
You know what you're joining up for. You know you have friends who work in law firms.
Hmm.
You interact with people,
Hmm.
right? So you are very much there. I think it hits you when you are actually at work,
Okay.
and let's say you'll go home every day at like 2 in the morning because you're working on a deal, and you will come back at 8 o'clock the next day.
Mm-hmm.
Or if you're can't get a weekend off, or
Right.
you had to cancel a vacation because a deal has to be signed. That's where the ground reality of dealing with the high pressure comes in. Again, most people are ready, they've signed up for it, they all find their own coping mechanisms.
Mm.
Things start getting complicated if you were to get married, or if you are looking after somebody, or if you have other commitments at
Right.
work. But otherwise, it's par for the course in a law firm. So I remember when I joined, and I tend to go to work early. So I would reach by 8:30, 8:45, and I would find a couple of youngsters leaving,
Mm.
crossing me at the lobby, and they would say that, "Sir, we have done what they call an all-nighter."
Okay.
So they've been awake all night, and then
Yeah.
they were going home, and they would maybe rest a while, and they would be back
Come
at work
back.
at 9 or 10
Yes.
in the morning.
Yes.
And I would say, like, how does this work? But
Yeah.
they're young, they expect it. So for those who can't cope with it, most of our attrition takes place within the 3 to 5 years of their joining.
Okay.
And that's when they realize that maybe I need to join a smaller firm, or we have a lot of people who choose to shift from a law firm to a corporate. So if
Okay.
you're a lawyer in a corporate legal department,
It's
it's much
different.
easier, and it's
Yes.
it's not there. You would have a small percentage that may quit the profession, but that's a very, very small percentage, because mostly people take up law because they want to do law, or they're
Right.
interested, or they have somebody in the family who's doing law. What the firm does is build systems and processes to help diffuse the high pressure.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I mentioned earlier that, let's say if you worked on a deal, and you've not gone home, not taken leave, a partner can sanction what's called a recuperation leave, right?
Okay.
So the
Interesting.
partner will say that, okay, the next 2 days you take off, it's your recuperation leave. It's not adjusted against anything,
Okay.
right?
It's an over and above
Yeah, things
additional.
like that.
Yeah.
Or if, let's say, you're traveling somewhere and it's near your hometown, the partner will say, okay, take 2 days off, go visit your mom and dad, and come
That's
back.
good.
And
Yeah.
as you go along in the profession, you find your own ways to deal with it. But you do work across time zones, you work on deadlines, you work on very
Mm.
big deals. There's no compromising that.
Right.
So very early on, and maybe even before you join, you do know what you're signing up for.
Right. So they are sort of mentally prepared.
Yes.
But just to pick from what you said, you've spoken about systems and processes. Has the technology and the AI and ML world helped the legal firms in any way to make their work easier, more productive, faster? I'm not sure how it can be used, but
Yeah.
what is Khaitan doing on
Yes,
that?
very much so. I'm not a tech guy. I'm not an IT guy. But yes, we technology is a huge part of any top tier law firm,
Hmm.
and it affects every function. So, including HR.
Right.
I think even within the period since I joined and where I am now, I probably can't operate a lot of the HR systems myself. But in terms of work, analytics, databases,
Right.
there is a huge difference that it makes. And if you're tech savvy and you have no choice, actually, you have to pick
You
all that
have to.
up.
Yes.
Yes, it can make your life very much easier. For example, just to take a simple thing like staffing. So
Right.
in a law firm, you have a pool of associates, you have partners who work with that pool of associates, and whenever there is work, and there is somebody within that pool called a staffing partner, and who
Okay.
will say that who's the best person for the job, who's available.
Okay.
Now
So,
all that has moved into the tech world. So today, at the click of a button, you can see who's available, who's working, who's overworked, who's underworked, who's the
okay.
best person for the job. We would get reports where people have not taken leave or people are working beyond capacity over, because then you know that the person's headed for burnout.
Burnout. Yes.
So yes, the
Hmm.
technology has come in, and there's pure legal technology that has come in that helps you find things, analyze things, read things much faster than you would have done
Yeah.
it physically.
Yeah.
So we have some of the finest physical libraries, given that we are such an old firm, and
Okay.
in fact, our library in the Calcutta offices, which is the oldest office, is legendary in terms of the rare books that they have.
Okay.
But all our new offices have a very small physical library, which is, I think, more decorative in nature than anything. But we have a very fancy digital library
Digital.
now.
Yeah.
So that's changed even in the tenure that I've been with the firm.
Yeah. Yeah. And you were telling me that you're like creating your own chat GPT
Yes, for example,
within.
yes, everybody is going to use go to GPT or Chat GPT,
Yeah.
whatever. You can't stop it. It's not legally the best solution because not everything is accurate. But what we have done is we have created our own version of GPT called Kai GPT or something,
Okay.
and we tell the youngsters that you use this. So they are in a contained environment. Data privacy is very very important for us, given the
Absolutely.
sensitivity of the work that we do.
Mm.
So tech is a huge thing, and it will also disrupt our industry hugely as we go along.
Hmm. It has actually done quite a bit even in the HR space. I was just attending a workshop last week. We did a generative AI workshop, and so there were these two people who came and sort of come and telling us what are the tools available that AI can do for you. And the first example they gave, while it was for business and all the leadership and everyone was there, the first example they put up was of HR. What they had done is they actually picked my managing director's voice from all the media interviews that he's given, and they curated a AI voice of his and actually curated a welcome note for an employee.
Interesting.
So how do you better employee experience? So it actually said, hi Yog, welcome to Mahindra,
Lovely. Yeah.
and
I think I'm going to pick that up.
I know, and it said that I know you've joined as a relationship manager in our Jaipur branch. To that level of personalization. So even HR actually can use
Yeah.
lot of this stuff to
Yes.
better employee experience.
Yeah. We've been using, initially, I think we called it digitization, and
Right.
you did simple stuff around HRIS and all.
Yes.
And now a lot of AI is coming in. So we are running with some predictive model on
Yes.
attrition, for
Mm,
example.
mm,
We have a lot of uh, um, kind of IT, if I were to loosely use the term, around our learning and development.
right.
Because we are a people-driven business, we have no product that you can touch and feel, right? We
Mm,
don't manufacture a toothpaste or a car or a pencil, right?
right.
It's all your knowledge is in your head. We also have to be very careful. So a lot of times a partner will say that I know everything is available if I click this button, but Amar, I want to talk to you.
Yes.
I want to know what something is. So somebody wants to know some policy. It's all there. You need to go somewhere and click it. But a partner will say, can you just tell me,
Yeah.
about it or how
Explain
I
me.
want.
Yeah.
So we balance it out,
Mm,
both the physical and actual, the touch and feel versus the.
mm,
So a lot of the commoditized stuff, the back end stuff, we have moved, onto the system or whatever you call it.
mm.
But we do keep a physical, interaction. So I've just come from Bangalore, where I had breakfast with what we call our senior principal associates. They're one
Okay.
level below
Below the
becoming a
partner.
partners, right?
Okay.
Now that can't be replaced by AI. I could have
Mm.
done this online, I could have
Yeah.
sent a video, I could have, but the fact that I'm with these kids who have come from two locations, we are having breakfast, we are interacting, physically interacting with
Yes.
each other. It's also a great learning. So they've had a day's coaching on how they should be dressed before they meet me, and
Mm.
I think most of them were told don't even eat breakfast because
Be polite.
it's a this thing. So
Yeah.
I think in a people environment, AI will make a big impact.
Yeah.
But as far as the people function is concerned,
Mm.
it would be very dangerous to take the touch and feel away from it.
Absolutely. No, no. We just have to make sure we use it to, become
Yeah,
more productive, effective.
yeah.
All the mundane HR stuff can get
Yeah.
automated
A lot
and
of things, Priyanka, I've also seen, like, if you have, I don't know what it's called, if you log in somewhere, press one for this, two for this, three
yeah,
for
yeah,
this.
yeah. Those
And a lot of, I
telephone,
have now suddenly seen that if you want to talk to somebody,
press
press
nine.
X,
Yeah.
right? So people have realized that you can't completely take the human
You
element
cannot.
out of
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah. Yeah.
So,
So we still going to have jobs, I guess.
yeah. And I'll still sit physically and be interviewed by you.
Absolutely. So, Amar, we've spoken about technology and use of it in the legal world. What about HR? We already have a lot of data coming into us. And you also spoke about predictive attrition analysis. So there's a whole lot of data coming in. What would your advice be to HR leaders on how to adapt to all of this, how to use this data, how to insight, and what actions one could take? What is your advice on that?
So I think the big difference is the sheer quantum of data that comes to me
Hmm.
or is available to me at an instant.
Hmm.
I mean, if I would go back even 10 years, some file would land up on your table and you kind of flipped it and you read.
Right.
Now, even on my phone, I have access to so much. And if I were to just take my example and, say, I think it will make a great difference if I have the ability to shift through this data,
Hmm.
to analyze what's important or not, and use it strategically, because otherwise it's just data.
Right.
So maybe can I do future planning? So let's say we are currently working on a system within the firm where we are going to have a skills inventory.
Okay.
So we have north of 1,000 lawyers in our firm. We've grown, quite a bit.
Wow.
But we are saying that, can a partner, press a button and say that if he wants somebody with so many years of experience, with so much background, who has worked on these kind of
These kind of
deals,
cases. Yeah.
it's going to pop that information on a screen in maybe a couple of seconds. If you take that a step ahead, we are saying that then can we use that data to manage progression within the firm. So if a lawyer joins as an associate, what are the skill sets that are necessary, that are good but not necessary,
Hmm.
but what are critical if he or she were to become a senior associate, and how will we assess each individual lawyer on those skill sets,
Skills. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then it goes level wise. We can analyze what is the kind of work that we are doing. Is there some particular kind of stuff that we do around M&A or around the competition law or litigation? Do we need more people with those skill sets, or do we have people who don't have those skill sets? So this is really where technology, data, AI is coming in.
Hmm.
But as a leader, if I don't quickly learn how to manage and use that data strategically,
Right.
it's just data. It's like the millions of WhatsApps that I get. And I just click on something at random to see it, and it really there's no method to that.
Yes.
So I
Yes.
think HR leaders really need to smarten up. Maybe at least the leaders of my vintage who didn't deal with technology that much, and where technology has come in the later part of our lives, as to what is the data that should be fed to you. You also can't accept all data because otherwise
Hmm.
I'd be submerged
Right.
just in data. So what is the data that you want? What are you going to do with it? And what kind of strategic calls are you going to take using that data? I think it's very, very important for HR leaders to quickly,
Do that.
get
Yeah.
themselves to adapt and learn that.
So this is, you keep saying vintage and your age, so that reminds me of there's a question that I want to ask you, that what is that advice you would give to your younger self if you were to give, go back in time, say 20 years?
Well, actually, I've had a great career and I've worked with great companies and had great bosses and many tough moments. But if I were to give myself a couple of pieces of advice, one would be that I would worry less
Okay.
about many things. I think things tend to sort themselves out and you get caught
Hmm.
in a bind.
Right.
The second thing is, I think maybe I would have spent more time really getting into the fundamentals of my function, say
Mm.
HR. Sometimes I think you skim the surface and you do things because you're just supposed to do things.
Yeah.
But if you have deep functional depth, it makes a great difference whether you use it in your role or not. I think one of the things that I have done is just accepted every role that came.
Right.
I have never really shied away from everything, and I think my career has been a bit of luck and a lot of my grandmother's prayers, I think, to have brought me to wherever I am. But I would maybe not to myself, but generally say that take what comes.
Right.
Every job, every learning
Take it as a
is
challenge.
an
Yeah.
experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, but otherwise, I really won't. There's nothing that I want to go back and rewrite.
Change.
It's
Yeah.
been a great, and I think the toughest moments, Priyanka, are those in my career where things have been the roughest.
Mm.
So, you have a bad boss, you have a company not doing well, you're struggling with implementing something.
Yeah.
It's very difficult when you are in that moment.
Mm.
But if I were to look back at something that happened 15, 20 years back, I realized that I learned the most and grew the most in that.
Mm.
So,
What would your advice be really? Because you've spoken about bosses, and there's a lot of debate that goes on nowadays of being a boss versus a leader, and toxic environment is a trending topic. What would your advice be to those leaders to create environments which are more happy and inclusive rather than toxic?
yeah, I mean, that's easier said than done because I think the important thing there, Priyanka, is self realization. So,
Mm-hmm.
if I'm a bad or a toxic boss,
Hmm.
uh, I first need to realize that. And that bridge is never crossed, I think, with more than 90% of the people.
Yeah. Even
So,
with maturity,
yeah,
till you don't accept it, you can't really change
yeah,
it.
yeah. So, I think if self realization were to come,
Mm.
you would do a lot of self correction yourself.
Okay.
But if that doesn't, and if you're not willing to listen to feedback, there's really nothing much that
Mm.
you can do
Mm.
about it.
Mm. Does coaching help, you think?
I think so.
Mm.
I think coaching's also got commoditized. So I think
Right.
sometimes on LinkedIn, on certain days, I think there are more coaches than people who need coaching. But
That's
coaching
true.
helps,
Mm.
especially if you find a great coach.
Right.
Somebody who has maturity, maybe a few years older than you,
Mm. Mm.
somebody who you can speak with and gives you a perspective.
Mm.
But you need to find the right
Right.
coach,
Yeah.
and you need to approach it with an open mind also. Uh,
Yeah. They need to be open about being coached.
yes,
Right. So, and,
yes,
and then
yes,
I think um, the rhythm, whether you're
yes.
being able to align or,
Yeah,
are you comfortable with the coach? I think that's
yeah,
also very
and
important.
I'm sure you know this better than, but coaches don't give solutions. They're not
They
supposed to
don't.
give
They're
solutions,
not
right? You're
supposed
supposed
to.
to guide on a path. So if you expect that you'll get a coach and somebody will tell you,
What to
what
do?
to take
Yeah.
and not to take, then you're in for problem.
Yeah.
But if you know that I'm going to have a conversation with somebody who's going to nudge me in the right direction, and I want to be nudged in the right direction,
Only then it
yeah,
works.
then it works. But it's a
Yes.
good thing.
Okay. Good. Great. So, we have something called quick short summer. I want to take you towards that. And it's like a rapid fire. You would have seen
For a
Coffee
moment,
with
I thought
Karan.
I'm going to be offered tequila shots.
More than welcome, but after the show. Yeah. So, quick shots. I'll ask you, 4 or 5 questions, and whatever comes to your mind straight away, that's what I want to know. So, name a leader who you take inspiration from.
It's a Dalai Lama.
Okay.
I have never met him. My father has met him, and maybe I hope in his lifetime. I read a lot about him, but I
Okay.
think he's a great leader in every aspect of leadership. I don't want to get into what the Dalai Lama stands for, but yes, in my mind, uh, I think he's one of the greatest living leaders that we have.
Excellent. And your favorite book?
I read a lot, so I
Hmm.
have lots of books. But if you were to rephrase that question and ask me, is there some book that you would recommend somebody reads?
Okay.
I would say Jonathan Livingston Seagull. It's a small book.
Yeah.
I'm sure you know what it's
Yeah, I
about.
know. I know.
But why I say that also is that I think it just tells you that you can be whoever you want to be, irrespective of what's around you.
Right.
I don't think there's any book that covers it so nicely, so neatly, and in such a
In a
short form.
second way. Yeah. And okay, so that's a book. Any favorite quote or philosophy that you live by?
It's a short life.
It is. Okay, and what does happiness mean to you at workplace?
I think the ability to make a difference both at the workplace and in somebody's life,
Hmm,
and to do really things that I'm passionate about.
right. And in personal life, what does happiness mean?
Being in control of my time.
Excellent. I fully agree with that.
Yes.
Time freedom is, I think,
Yeah.
the most powerful
Yeah. What you do with
currency.
that time, I think, depends from individual to individual.
Yeah.
But to be in control of your time is, I think,
It's a very important currency to look after.
yes,
Yeah, your own time. So that's about it, Amar. Thank you for sharing your insights, and I've had a lovely conversation. I hope you enjoyed the same.
absolutely. It was delightful. I'm actually fundamentally very shy, and I would shy away from this, but I think I really enjoyed this, and it was very comfortable, and I hope it makes a difference to people who hear us.
Absolutely. So that was Amar Sinhji, and I hope you enjoyed this conversation. And if you did, please subscribe to Unplug with Priyanka, and see you in the next one.